named Rindercella, who lived with her muggly other and her two sugly isters, who were merry vain to Rindercella because they made her sit by the fireplace and I her cries out all day long. Now, done way, there came a dock on the door of the kittle cottage, and there was a moil messenger. And in his hands, he held a moil wretched from the king and the queen of the king Basil, who were throwing a bancy fall that night in honor of the Pransome Hince, who was just blown from the whores. I'll let you chew on that one for a second. Well, the purpose of the bancy fall was so that the Pransome Hince can meet all the Gertie pearls of the kingdom to select one to become his wife. Gertie pearls. Well, the muggly other saw a rare opportunity here to get rid of one of the sugly isters. So that night they were getting into the drancy fesses, getting ready to go to the bancy fall. There sat Rindercella by the fireplace, eyeing her cries out and stirring a big pot of frickin' chickasee. Frickin' chickasee.
Frickin' chickasee.
Well, because she was very bad because she couldn't go to the bancy fall. Well, the muggly other and the two sugly isters got into the cancy foach and down they went round the door to the king Basil, leaving Rindercella sitting by the fireplace, eyeing her cries out and stirring the frickin' chickasee. Well, when down from the ceiling, a light came and it fat on the floor. And it turned into a Gary Fodmother. And the Gary Fodmother said, Rindercella. Rindercella said, yes, Gary Fodmother. Gary Fodmother said, Rindercella, would you like to go to the bancy fall to meet the Pransome Hince? Rindercella said, I'd love to go to the bancy fall and meet the Pransome Hince, but I can't because I don't have a drancy fest. Well, the Gary Fodmother pulled out her magic wand. She waved it over Rindercella and poof, there she stood in a drancy fest. It was a beautiful breast with a bow-cut lattice. Lots of leavage. Nobody misses that one. Because Rindercella had big boobs, there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do with that in this story. But it was a beautiful breast with a charm laying bound the neck. Now the Gary Fodmother said, are you ready to go to the bancy fall? Rindercella said, I still can't go to the bancy fall because I don't have a cancy foach. Well, the Gary Fodmother said, go out into the garden and get me a pig bumpkin. So Rindercella went for a pig bumpkin. Hold that thing still. This is going on YouTube.
It's a pig bumpkin.
Yeah. She set it in the riddle of the moat in front of the kittle cottage. Now, the Gary Fodmother said, find me a tross map. So Rindercella found a tross map with me thrice in it. Me thrice. She set it in front of the pig bumpkin in the riddle of the moat. Out came the magic wand. All of a sudden, there was a cancy foach, two height horses, and a cancy foachman. Now Rindercella was ready to go to the bancy fall to meet the Pransome Hince. But the Gary Fodmother said, Rindercella, beware the moke of stridnite. Because if you're not out of the moke of stridnite, everything goes back the way it was before. Rindercella said, I'll remember, Gary Fodmother, and she got into the cancy foach. Down they went round the door to the king Basil. Well, they pulled up in front of the king Basil, and Rindercella went up the depths to do the thwart into the bancy fall room. Well, there in the bancy fall room were all the Gertie pearls of the kingdom in their drancy fesses waiting for their chance to dance with the Pransome Hince.
I can't believe it.
Well, the Pransome Hince was out on the flange door dancing with his one Gertie pearl, but he looked across the flange door to the dance floor, and there stood Rindercella.
Oh, no kidding.
In her drancy fest.
Oh, my God.
With a bow-cut lattice.
Oh.
And clots of cleavage. I figured you might like that one more time.
Just like that.
He took one look at Rindercella and fell madly in love. This guy was wussy-pipped.
Just went to the R YouTube version.
Only one start.
Yeah. He dropped the Gertie Birdle he was dancing with, walked across the flat store, and asked Rindercella to dance. Well, of course, Rindercella took one look at the Pransome Hince and fell madly in love herself.
Oh.
And that's the way they spent the rest of the evening, locked in each other's arms out on the flat store, falling madly in love, much to the consternation of the rest of the Gertie Pearls, who were waiting for their chance to dance on the Pransome Hince, and here he was dancing with his one Gertie Pearl, and nobody who knew who the hell she was. Well, all of a sudden, the walk on the cloud started making a stridnite.
Oh.
And Rindercella, remembering the words of the Gary Fodmother, needed for the board. The only problem was, on the way down the depths of the King Basil, she slopped her dripper.
I understand that's a good
Oh my God.
Well, it was this last gripper that a Gary Fodmother had given her. She left that laying on the steps of the King Basil. She got into her cat's and down they went and round the door. They got about a block and a half from the King Basil, and everything went back the way it was before. Oh, yeah. There sat Rindercella in her dragon dress, sitting on top of a pig bumpkin in the middle of the boat with me thrice running around in front of her. Yeah. Well, she snuck back with the throats and put on nut on her piety and went to bed. She nut on her piety. Well,
God,
she didn't neep slaking. or beep in the slough. Well, the next morning, the Muggle Elder and the two Sogly Isters were sitting at the breakfast table talking about this Gertie Pearl who was dancing with the Pransome Hince last night in the Fancy Ball. And nobody knew who the hell she was. But there sat Rindercella by the fireplace with a big ficker on her snace, because she knew who the Gertie Pearl was. Well, all of a sudden, there came a knock on the door of the Kittle Cottage. And again, it was the Moyle Messenger. But this time, he held a purple pillow. Again, something you can't do too much with in this story. But in the middle of the purple pillow lay this last stripper. Now, the Moyle Messenger, explained that the Pransome Hince had fallen madly in love with this Gertie Pearl last night at the Fancy Fall, and on the way down the depths of the King Basil, she slopped her dripper. Well, the Pransome Hince sent the Moyle Messenger out into the King Basil to find the Gertie Pearl whose foot fit into this last gripper, and he was supposed to bring her back to the King Basil to become the Pransome Hince, or the wife of the Pransome Hince. Well, the Muggle Elder chat down on the stair in the middle of the living room, and she tried on the last gripper, but it fit and did. Her foot, come on, give me a chance, guys.
Yeah.
I got more of this to go. Her foot was boutig. So the first Ugly Easter chat down on the stair, she tried on this last gripper, but it fit and did because her foot was boutig. The second Ugly Easter chat down on the stair, she tried on this last gripper, but it fit and did because her foot was boutigger. So Rindercella said, "May I try on this last gripper?" And the Muggle Elder laughed, and the two Ugly Easters laughed. But Rindercella chapped down on the chair. She tried on this last gripper, and the foo shit.
I know that song.
Yeah. So the story of the Maury is, if you're a Kittle Earl and the Rindercella and you live with your Muggle Elder and your two Ugly Easters and the Kittle Cottage and the Fark Doris, and you go to a Fancy Fall at the King Basil to meet a Pransome Hince, don't forget to slop your dripper.
Wow.